Roblox VR, of course, has to be first on our list, one of the most highly anticipated games coming to VR. This is, of course, the regular game Roblox brought over to VR. Roblox, if you don't know of it, it's a worldwide phenomenon, probably one of the most popular games in the world, still with 60 million active daily users, many of a much younger age group though. With this barely being out in open beta for a week, it already has over 1,700 ratings. And about 58% of those are 5-star, with people, of course, saying, it's perfect, it's awesome, it makes me shake my buns. But you get down to that 16% 1-stars. People are saying they're having a lot of problems logging in. In fact, most of the lower reviews are citing the problems with logging in, which, as we've discussed before, that's referring to a lot of accounts that are being hard blocked because they are registered as under 13-year-old accounts, and they're really pushing the 13 plus on this app. If you sift more into the 3-star range, you get a little bit more of the honest reviews. People saying it is laggy, people saying it's experimental, it's obviously in beta. But with how many people play Roblox on the daily, this is a big move for VR for this to come out and be free now, and it's speculated it may stay free even after full launch, as Roblox has always been a free-to-play game. Move Fast is a new free hand-tracked game experience that just came out, really to demonstrate the improvements that have been made to hand tracking on the Quest 2 and how fast it can keep up. Move Fast is a fitness-style app, rhythm-based game, kind of feels like Beat Saber but with more boxing, slapping, chopping, and even blocking in it. This is a short experience, but you get into it, it looks really good. It's a decent way if you're trying to show people what fitness can be like on the Quest, especially with just hand tracking, because it really does work quite well. Different blocks come at you, you're either punching, chopping, palm striking, or blocking to the beat of the music as these are coming at you. There's currently just 4 songs with different difficulties on them, but this is a good app, I'd say, to add to your library so you can show this to other people when they're interested in what hand tracking can work for. It's too new, it's got 0 ratings yet, so if you check this out, maybe hit it with the rating, let them know what you think. Never Down looks to be VR's answer to a recent game that got really popular called Only Up, where you are climbing a world in 3 dimensions, similar to Bennett Foddy's old game Getting Over It, the rage-inducing game that it was. Never Down puts you in VR with a huge 3-dimensional world around you to scale up above you. Different forms of locomotion where you're moving either by pushing your hands, bouncing your hands off the floor to jump up, and even a dash mechanic that helps you mid-air to kind of have a second jump to head towards the direction you're going. Never Down comes with the amazing, breathtaking views of climbing and all of the frustration of the types of games in this genre. And with that frustration comes the reviews. The few people who have found this game so far have given it 6 ratings with about a 2.8 star. 33% giving it 5 stars, a 4-star, and mostly 1-star reviews. The only written review saying we basically know that it's a ripoff of Only Up, saying that the movement style is similar to Gorilla Tag but worse, and then going into further details about the mechanics. I will say, having played this myself, it felt similar to Gorilla Tag style movement. I think that the big difference is with one hand you can only push yourself, or if you wanted to actually bounce more, you were using both hands to do that jump mechanic. I honestly am surprised at these initial reviews because with the competitive nature of this and the fact that it looks so much like these other frustrating games, I feel like there will be an underground movement that loves this game once they all find it. But for now, I wouldn't recommend this game unless you are someone who likes challenging other people, climbing higher. It even shows on your watch exactly where you're at the whole time you're climbing, and someone who also likes that punishing feeling when you fall and you lose a ton of progress. A lot of people played Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, so more people might actually find this and be interested in it. If you check it out, I'd love to hear in the comments what you thought. Last Mech standing just might be the Gundam style mech simulator where your killing guides you that you've been looking for. I didn't really know what to expect when downloading this game, but you open it up, it drops you into the intro, and it's actually really interesting and exciting. You collect rewards from each of the enemies you destroy, and that can help you upgrade to new weapons and different loadouts for your mech. Unfortunately, the game is not a free open locomotion game like it kind of looks like. This is more of a wave shooter style game where you end up with a sword in one hand, some kind of gun in the other that you've gotten, and you are fighting off waves of enemies. This is currently an open beta where you can play up to the end of stage 2, and you might be really excited waiting for more after that, or you might be someone who is just kind of sick of the fact that you really should sit in place when you play this game and not move around. And it reflects in the 7 ratings so far, giving this about a 3.2, with the ratings very split, 43% 5-star, 29% 1-star, but the written reviews, people say it's a really good start, this is the place to be for roguelikes, and then the most in-depth review bringing up a lot of the issues that I ran into. You really should sit because it doesn't want you trying to move around your play space when when you play this. At the beginning of each stage, your weapons lock to each of your hands and they stay there for that round. So if you put your sword in the hand you wished you had put it to your offhand, you can't change that until you get to the next round. Flaws aside, I've got to say, with how smooth the game played, how good it looked when you were actually playing it, and how cool you felt sometimes when you were fighting off the enemies with your sword and your gun and planning your moves strategically, I actually had a really good time playing this, and I'm hoping if they add some sort of locomotion, this continues to develop, this could actually turn into something really amazing. Zap was a game where I saw the trailer, I thought when I get in the game that can't possibly look this good, and it looks surprisingly good. The gun mechanics are surprisingly reliable, and the gameplay gets surprisingly dull after you play it for long. Really, what this game is a shooting gallery with different environments, different enemies and targets, but you're standing in place with your single gun, and you may have unlimited ammo, you may have very limited ammo, and you're trying to take out different types of targets. Sometimes you're defending sheep from getting abducted, sometimes you're just shooting actual targets, or sometimes you're shooting those sheep on their way to the barn. With how new this is, it's got 1 rating so far, putting it at 5 stars, no written words about it. It does have a multiplayer room option, so if you're looking for a good multiplayer game to get in, compete with your friends, this might be an option, or this could make for a decent party game for people who are new to VR. It's real simple, they just need that one controller, they're just aiming and shooting and looking around these pretty environments. The description does mention this game is a letter of love to the VR gaming community by a small Finnish indie studio Fonster, so maybe this is all the game is going to be. It looks good and it plays reliably, so if you check it out in the comments, I'd love to know what you think of it. Lagazoui, Echoes of the Great War is a game that'd probably be really interesting to World War I buffs. This takes you back to the time of World War I, Mount Lagazoui, where soldiers had to dig through a mountain and fight the elements even with temperatures as low as -20 degrees. The game loads up and you only have a choice of 2 languages, English, UK style, or Italian. Some of the words still seem to stay in Italian throughout the game, so some parts of it are a little hard to navigate if you only speak English at this point, but the voice acting is done in English, and it's interesting to see some of the side of what this war was like. This does feel very early access though. You can only teleport, snap turns, the movement in it, the mechanics of it, everything feels very early access, and with that, it's only got 1 rating though at 5 stars. No written reviews. I will say after checking this out, there is a lot of really interesting facts, things you can learn. The gameplay itself is probably not the highlight of this, at least this early on, but if you're looking to go in, learn, see some different environments and what it could have been like back then, you'll probably find it interesting and entertaining. Drakheir is in free alpha to download, and it tells you that it is a magical skills showcase. The interesting thing about this game is it is designed to be used fully with hand tracking. Of course, that does include some hand tracking jank that goes with it. They've tried really hard to get a full game working with hand tracking with different ways to move, such as leaning, teleporting with hand signals, and even saying move or stop, possibly working when you say it. Possibly. The world it drops you into is an interesting magical world, different types of enemies you're fighting, different types of spells you can fight back with. This is definitely something you should check out if you're into this and you want to see what hand tracking is like, but be prepared. You're going to be fighting with the game as it's an alpha as you're trying to get through it. With that, it's got only 4 ratings so far. 2 of those are 5-star, 1 is 4-star, 1 is 2-star, with nobody saying what they think of the game quite yet. It's barely been out a week, and I will tell you, it feels early. It feels like it could have promise, but it definitely feels like the hand tracking is not good enough or strong enough to really play this game, and ultimately I ended up wishing that I could use the controllers to play instead, and just to actually see more of the lore and what the game had to offer. Tales of Tsynara is a magical world where you are a flying wizard who has different types of magic and spells that you are fighting through an underworld that kind of feels like you're moving through hell. The game opens up to a nice screen of lore, but it is a text wall where I do feel like some voice acting could really help the game out, and ultimately the controls, you have to figure them out as you go, and it takes a little time, but once you do figure them out, it does feel really cool to be able to fly hyper speed around your enemies, firing different spells at them, and surprisingly the movement is fluid enough that I never felt like it would make most people sick who are at least somewhat experienced in VR, and that shows with the 5 ratings giving it about a 4.6 rating already. 60% of those are 5 stars and 40% of those are 4 stars. People saying it's got a great atmosphere, it's a good concept, it's a nice magic shooter. Seems like everyone in the reviews is excited for the future of it, and they did cite some of the problems that I ran into, where it does feel a little weird to use your grip buttons to fly, and the fact that your hands are what shows your amount of spell ammo you have and your health. It does feel like those are hard to check in battle because you're so busy flying and trying to return fire at these enemies. Ultimately though, if magic, flying, and moving through the fire plane, I believe is what they call it, basically it looks like you're in hell, are things that you're interested in, I would say for free this is definitely worth checking out. Just make sure you at least have some experience with VR locomotion, because if it was your first time and you're flying like this, it might be a little much. Deliveriders feels like if you were a Doordash driver in the 22nd century. You're flying around the cyberpunk city on on your hoverboard to make deliveries. And if you can get past what it takes to learn the movement, the game actually feels really cool. The game says when you first start, they recommend that you do the tutorial first. Weirdly, I would actually recommend you just jump into the game, play around with the movement, and kind of learn it that way, because some parts of the tutorial were kind of frustrating, having to click through the text box over and over again, only having a certain amount of time to get through a part, and it felt a lot nicer once you're actually in the game. Once you're in the game, you're a futuristic food delivery driver. There's different people around the city you can meet and different things you can do. Ultimately though, I was just kind of playing it Tony Hawk futuristic VR style and just go cruise around the city having a good time. With this barely being out any time at all, it still has no reviews whatsoever. I'd highly recommend, if this sounds like something you'd want to check it out, maybe leave a review for the next person. Now, although I hesitate to call Angel Eyes a game, it is a graphic novel that you're experiencing through virtual reality, and it is really cool. Granted, the pacing sometimes when you can't skip ahead in graphic novels can feel a little slow if you're a fast reader. So far, this only has 3 ratings, all of which are 5-star. People who have checked this out saying that it's brilliant. It's a really great VR experience, although this is rated mature 17 and up because this is like a intense graphic novel when you check it out. I do think if you're interested in graphic novels at all, or you just like to see something different VR can do with it, this thing is completely free. You can check out all the episodes of it, and it does have kind of a typical plot line, but something still interesting to read through and see what's going on. With all that, there's a whole bunch more free games for you to check out, all very new and some untested, unproven, and unrated. Maybe you can help with that. But what else can you suggest for me down in the comments to check out? I'd love to make sure we're sharing all those with everyone out there. Thanks once again for being here, and I will see you in another reality.